Hello, everybody, and welcome to Ms. Behavior, the podcast for college student conduct professionals. I'm Colette,
And I'm Kurt.
and we are in summer mode. Kurt, what you got going on right now? Because I think it's a big one.
Right now, specifically the Pride Month situation.
Yeah.
So as of right now, as we're recording this, it's June and Pride Month. During Pride Month, we are primarily raising funds for our scholarship fund, but this year we're also raising funds for Free to Be, which is our youth program. So we're really excited about that. And I got a donation from somebody yesterday that was very kind. So thank you, Colette.
You made it very easy to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And of course, it's on campus end of the year stuff. Next week is our end of the year campus celebration. So once that's done, I can start looking to next year. What about you?
I just started summer hours this week, which is fantastic, and everyone should be jealous.
I'm jealous, but next week I will join you in summer hours.
The case flow has slowed down, and we're talking about training for like all student affairs staff coming up, and that is very exciting that I might be on site at my university to do some restorative practices training. Something that might be near and dear to you is what we called community standards back in the day, which was just a consensus driven communication decision-making process. So I think I might be doing some introduction to consensus building and healthy communication for folks.
That still has such a special place in my heart. I learned so much working with you during that period of time about building consensus and I think just trusting students. And it was a very cool model.
There's a lot of trust building on almost every campus where I talk to people. It's like, wow, trust is really at the heart of it. Anything that comes next has to start with trust.
And that doesn't disappear even when you're an employee. I think that's important for any team building.
Kurt, exciting news. We have our first voicemail.
Actual voicemail? Like old-fashioned voicemail?
Yes.
Love
Let's
it.
play it for the people.
Hey, Colette and Kurt. This is Marty McGrath. Good to connect with you again, and very impressed by your podcast. The voices sounded great, very professional, and maybe there's a career for you in radio. But the topic today that I listened to was the improv one. A lot of great lessons and tips and techniques to work productively in meetings and stuff like that. I will continue to listen. All the best. Bye-bye.
I love that Marty listened to the improv episode.
Me too. And I love Marty McGrath. So, Marty, if you are listening again, hello. Hope you're doing well.
He's a beloved colleague from back in the day. I did not know anyone that did not feel positively. He worked in our facilities area and helped with like small events, big events, like just constant changing, people not doing things on time and him having to react, and always just so positive.
You know, I think about folks in facilities sometimes feel like they're more prone to being disconnected to what's going on campus. And Marty, for me, was the model of like everybody on campus contributes to the student experience. And I was as likely to run into him on campus as I was a faculty member. Just remarkable person.
And the improv topic for him would be perfect because things had to change so fast. I don't know what your experience has been, Kurt, but I found when I was interviewing for campus jobs that had to do with student discipline, the facilities folks came with strong opinions.
Yes.
And either they felt very supported or you could tell they did not feel supported on their campus. It would be interesting to bring somebody in with that perspective and for a misbehavior episode.
I agree. I think about thinking back to when I was a hall director, some of the most horrid conduct cases that we had. There was most certainly implications for our custodial and facilities staff. discharging a fire extinguisher and having to clean up after that. Bathroom shenanigans, a water slide created down an entire hallway, all the furniture in our lobby turned upside down. And those students didn't clean any of that up. It was our custodial services team and our facilities team. So, yeah.
Goes back again to trust and
Mm-hmm.
building relationships where people know each other by name, and about each other. I remember a staff at a small college in their interview, they kept asking me about window screens. What would you do about window screens? And I thought I'd answered it, and then finally I was just like, I think that window screens are a euphemism for
They're a
some other thing
metaphor.
that's
They're a metaphor for respect, obviously.
yes.
In the window screen of your life, what's been important?
Have to do a quick shout out to our friend Erin Kaplan. We did a little Meet the Author last week to introduce her to our book club crowd. We have had a huge response to the book club invitations, and I can't wait till July 16th.
It's very exciting.
I now understand why you love dissertations so much, Kurt. It's been so fun, and sometimes I find it suspenseful, like I'm reading it like a book.
Yeah, I think about that a lot when I'm reading a dissertation. When you are reading a published book, you expect it's going to be something's going to happen. You kind of know it's formulaic. When you're reading a dissertation, they might disprove their own theory in the course of the dissertation. So you don't know if it's going to end well or if it's going to they'll say we didn't find what we thought we were. So it is not a foregone conclusion. So yeah, I think there is an anticipation associated with it.
I want to meet. It's almost like when we have guests on the show and they'll talk about a situation, and a lot of times I'll say, gosh, I wish I could have met you back then, or I wish I could have met the students that she interviewed. I just wish I could meet them. I have so many more questions, but they are so wise, and there's so much to be learned. There's still room for anybody who's listening who would like to sign up. The link to sign up for the Just Desserts and Dissertations Book Club is right in the podcast link. Or you can email us at msbehaviorcollege@gmail.com, and I'll send you a registration link. But the more the merrier. It's going to be fantastic to talk about this.
And I know I asked you this last time, but I'm going to ask again to see if there are any updates. What is your dessert that you're bringing?
Oh, did I give you an answer?
I think you did.
On the registration page, we're asking people what they're going to bring to do a little survey. Right now, I think brownies are the winner. So anyone that would like to join me with boba could, maybe we could give boba a little love. I remember your drink. I don't remember your sweet.
I do remember we talked about this because I got it wrong. I said Mr. Boba. The place I meant to point you to was Mr. Smoothie in the mall because Mr. Smoothie has the best boba at the mall that is near your house. So, but I think my dessert would be a chocolate iced donut with angel cream filling in it.
Oh.
Yeah.
I love the dark chocolate, and dark chocolate's getting a little bit of love in our survey. I like the custard filling, though, as opposed to the light whipped filling.
It just tastes like pudding to me. No, can't do it. Can't do it. I want a buttercream situation.
I think last time we talked about it, I said something about a lavender chai, and I did indulge in that yesterday. So.
Okay.
Mr. Smoothie, I'll go do a taste comparison.
Strawberry coconut. That's the way to go.
Oh, that's right. I got to write that down. So today we are going to talk a little bit. Hopefully all of you are in the midst of strategic planning and summer retreats, and we just wanted to share some tips for how to get the most out of those retreats so you can get the most out of this school year. Do you have any thoughts on that right away, Kurt?
Well, first and foremost, it's all about the food. No, just
Mm.
kidding.
No, I think you might have something there.
I think for me, the most important part of summer planning is the pre-planning part. Our summer planning happens a little later at my school. We're doing it in July, but that means that our teams have all of June and up to mid-July to prepare their pieces of it. We have a collaborative approach to our summer planning. We pitch our ideas for the upcoming year, and then we talk through concerns, overlap. So I'm excited. I generally know what I think some of the groups are going to be presenting, but it's sort of like a showcase of what to expect for the year ahead.
I like that. So it kind of flattens the hierarchy
Hmm.
in your organization to
Yeah.
democratize ideation. Nice.
Anybody can throw out a concern or identify a barrier or make a suggestion.
I do like to keep a notes for next year list
Hmm.
all year long because sometimes you get to summer and you're like, oh my gosh, there were so many things I felt really passionately about changing and it wasn't recorded anywhere. And you might remember some big ones, but really you may have had 50 things if you'd written them down in the moment. Also, it promotes a growth mindset when you are constantly learning, like, you know what, next year I would love to do this one thing a better way. And people aren't afraid then of taking it as criticism as much as just dreaming like we could be
Hmm.
better.
I love that idea. I also keep an open document in my uh, work folder because the thing that you lose sleep over in September, you might not remember it in June.
Hmm. I put a little Alexa pod in my car a few years ago. I did not have a car with many bells and whistles, so I bought a little pod so I could just say, like, remember to put this on my notes for next year list.
I like
Because a
that.
lot of times, isn't it like when you're driving or taking a
Hmm.
shower that you come up with your best ideas?
Those You hit the nail on the head. The morning drive and the shower, most likely
Hmm.
places where I'm thinking about the future or getting in an imaginary argument with somebody.
I've had so many good practice arguments.
Oh yeah. And then I'm going to say this. I was going to say the other thing I'm excited about this year. One thing that I noticed last year is that our planning session did largely include um, our strategic leaders on campus. And we got in a room and we decided what we were going to do. And then everybody went back and told their folks, here's what we're doing. And part of my job is to track progress with the strategic plan. And you would get, or I would get, a couple months in, and somebody would say, well, I don't know who made this deadline? Where did this come from? So the people who are actually doing the work aren't necessarily in the room to understand the justification or give input on the timeline. So I think one thing that we're trying this year is, yes, we're going to still do the planning session, but then we're going to include a broader group of folks before we roll it out to the rest of campus to make sure that the wording makes sense or the timeline makes sense or that we didn't miss something that is completely obvious to them as folks who are more frontline. So I'm excited about that.
And to do that while it's still not baked.
Yep.
When we did our improv session, that was what we referred to as bring a brick, not a cathedral. Like
Hmm.
when you can hand something to somebody to collaborate on rather than just get feedback on.
Yes.
Yes.
That was a hard learned lesson for me when we worked together because I brought a cathedral one time for training. And, I'm an INTJ, very prone to believing that my way is the right way because I've thought of everything. And those hall directors, they poked all the holes. And I was like, oh my God. And I was so frustrated. And then I went back and I was like, they were right. And why did I go in there with this fully completed thing and expect them to just buy into it? They're doing what we want them to do. They're thinking critically about it. And I think there was a better product in the end. I think that was the year where we pivoted and we had the scavenger hunt and we had all kinds of crazy out of the box activities. So it was a good outcome.
I think that was the year we ended up with a programming model built around the periodic table of elements,
I don't
where
remember that. Ah,
yeah, it was such nerdy, amazing ideation, but had built a program around hall meetings, like weekly floor meetings with the RAs as being central to the community building. And so that was the carbon atom. And then you
oh,
could
okay.
attach other elements to it to make it into different molecules. So a birthday party could be added to it, or a visit from a professor for an educational conversation, but always the carbon had to be there to make it organic, and that was the precious floor meetings. Yeah. But I think that came
I
out
love
of
it.
that, like, wild ideation, and having everyone got to be an expert at what they were the expert on. I had a couple ideas as we were thinking about this topic of, like, what if everybody I know in student conduct uses the summer, they say, we're going to do a code review. We're going to do a
Hmm.
code review. And not everybody has the freedom to just change codes. You might be on a shared governance campus where you need to run your
Yeah.
ideas through one or two or three different governance groups to get buy-in first. But I was thinking about easy things conduct folks could do where you don't have to change the code at all to have a positive impact. And one I was thinking of is just going through your code and changing it from talking about the student will do this, and then the student will receive a letter to saying you. So if you're in this process, you'll get a letter, you'll be invited to the meeting, you'll get a chance to tell your side of the story, and you don't need to get an approved code. You're
Hmm.
not changing any codes, you're just changing how you communicate with folks.
I like that. I one that we did a couple years ago was we removed gender binary language from all of our policies and codes. Somebody very thoughtfully at some point, I assume, changed all the he's to she/he, and we changed them to they's or something that was gender non-binary just to make them more inclusive.
Nice. And again, how easy is
Hmm.
that? And yet people really notice
They do.
that you notice. I think there are other places too to look. Invitation letters. I think, like,
Hmm.
the impact, especially now reading Aaron's dissertation about students before, during, and after their conduct processes, the fear that they talk about in getting an invitation to a meeting. Summer is a great time to have students read over your drafts of invitation letters. Again, you're not changing the code, you're just changing sometimes tone or
Hmm.
vocabulary.
I was going to say I have started keeping a version 2.0 of all of my documents. I work in a lot of policy, and sometimes you want to make non-substantive changes. It's better just to collect them all. So I have a shared document that I have opened that has our bylaws and our policies. And if anybody on our team has changes they want to make throughout the year, they can go in. And until we get to a certain point in the year where we're going to have a substantive change meeting with our policy and governance committee, they're free to make any changes they want, and then we try to do them in one or two sittings. And then people, like, as issues come up, they can go in and document them and make redline edits with track changes on, and um, that way you're capturing things, as we said earlier, in the moment when they matter to you, and not waiting until that one special meeting in April and trying to think, what was the problem with this policy? It's already in the document then.
That is in some ways is like collecting quantitative data, like, you
Hmm.
collect those track changes, and then I refer to meetings like staff meetings or these meetings as precious time. Like,
Hmm.
you can really use that time for the conversation that is necessary around, like, the
Yes.
philosophy. Like, all right,
Yep.
which track change wins? Well, what is closest to our philosophy? And did we make enough time to really make sure we were locked in on our mission?
I like that. And there's nothing worse than wordsmithing in the middle of a meeting when you could just be having those philosophical discussions and take care of the wordsmithing ahead of time.
I read somewhere, oh, what a good change for me was wordsmithing you should give to 1 or 2 people,
Hmm.
and the big stuff, core values, that's the stuff to have the
Yeah.
whole group talk about. But when you're spending 30 minutes on, should it be or should it be and? Get your 2 best writers
Yep.
to do that work.
That is great advice.
I've had another pet peeve. I've noticed that we spend a lot of time sometimes on campuses talking about like how do we educate the whole student body about our processes? And I've been thinking, don't waste 1 minute of time on that. Think about the students who need to know what the
Hmm.
process is because they got the invitation letter. But
That's a
you
good
don't
point.
need to, like 90% of our students don't need to know that. But for that one student, is it easy to find? Is it really easy to understand? And aim for the user.
I'm a big fan of plain language changes also. I think I was reading a policy recently and it sounded like it was written by a lawyer. And I thought, I barely understand what this is. Can we just say what we mean in plain language so that anybody can access it and they don't have to come ask for legal advice or put it in ChatGPT to ask it to translate it?
We had a template somewhere. It had the word heretofore in it. I'm like, oh, come on. This is a tip off right now that we need to be doing an audit of all of our stuff.
We had a policy that said the name of the board shall be in the style of. And I was like, in the style of? Is it, does it have hair?
I think about our international students. And when I worked at RIT, we had a lot of deaf students. And so reading and writing was not their primary language. And American Sign Language uses a different syntax and grammar
Hmm.
than English. And so, like, can everyone read our stuff and clearly understand it? I have some suggested summer readings if anyone really wants to nerd out about this stuff for folks that are going to be doing strategic planning retreats. And I don't know, Kurt, if you have like favorite foundational readings or resources.
Mine are pretty niche, community college kind of stuff. So I'll let you.
No, I'd love to hear some of those. I was trying to think of like, what if somebody only had 5 minutes? What could
Mm,
they read? I still love the student learning imperative from
it's great.
ACPA.
Yeah.
And they did a re-look at it in recent years to see like, is this still applicable? And it feels more applicable than ever about our educational role, which involves deep learning, not just memorizing rules and following the rules, but really like learning to think critically, learning to work successfully in a pluralistic society. And do we believe we're capable of doing that? ASCA just put out a new procedural guide, and I have not read it, but it's on my summer list. They offered a free webinar about it, about best practices in student conduct, and the webinar was fantastic.
Ooh.
And it had some of my favorite kind of go-to people that we need to get on the podcast this year, but I have not read it, so full disclosure, but I have a feeling it's going to be great. And anyone that's doing a code review or procedural audit should probably look at ASCA's guide. Do you have any books that you go back to?
Yes, when we started our strategic planning process, this is outside of the conduct realm. We read America's Hidden Economic Engines. It's a book about how community colleges help drive economic prosperity in their respective communities. And it was 4 or 5 case studies in how community colleges had partnered with local businesses and industry to really improve the economic vitality of the entire community around the college. I love it because it's, for me, an idea generator, but it's also just, how do you think big about, what you do at the college and the impact that you have, not just on your students, but on the community that surrounds the campus.
That is really powerful. I think about colleges as parts of their communities,
Hmm.
where so often, like, places are just walled off, or it's almost like the Vatican, like, we're not in Italy, we're our own country. Sometimes
Yeah.
campuses can be like that.
I think there are um, private schools and four-year schools that do that really well, but community colleges, I think, are really skilled at embedding themselves in the community and working to fulfill the needs of not just employers, but also obviously the people that are coming, the adult learners and the folks just out of high school.
Looking at those missions and building that into the vocabulary of whatever your planning is so important. I've got 2 books that aren't related to higher education, but for those processes, I would recommend. One is Creative Confidence by Tom Kelly, uh, that teaches user-centered design, and in your case, the user isn't just the student or the campus, but it is your community. Your
Hmm.
community is the user. And Group Genius, we talked about when we had creativity scholar Keith Sawyer on the show. Group Genius is such a great tool for helping teams really get the most out of their creativity.
I have another, a non higher ed one that I go back to periodically. Have you ever read Nickel and Dimed?
I have not. I've always wanted to read that.
I think it's still so relevant. It's just about how difficult it is to get by on minimum wage in the United States right now. And for me, I always think about the imperative of, reaching our students who have less access to higher education. And how can we take what we do and make sure that it gets to the people that need it the most? But what was it, Barbara Eichenreich? I'm gonna butcher her last name. The author.
We'll put that in the notes.
Yeah, just phenomenal case studies in working minimum wage jobs around the country and what she had to do to try to get by. And often she could not get by on what she was making. It just, for me, I will probably read it every 2 or 3 years, and it helps me stay centered on why I do the work that I do.
I was just thinking the other day about there was a program that the RIT student government put on when I was there. It was called the Dorm Challenge. And the student government invited the president, the president's wife, key faculty, key governance members, key administrators to participate in the dorm challenge. And we moved into the residence halls
Oh, wow.
for a week, I think, and we had to do video journaling. It was like a reality TV show at the Rochester Institute of
That's
Technology,
wild.
and we were all given a curriculum. So it was almost like a scavenger hunt, but it was just real life student things like, okay, you need to be to class by 8 o'clock. But then you have an athletic practice over on the field that's a mile away. And then you've got to be able to get to a dining hall that's open to eat, and you're famished because you just did a workout, and you've got to do your homework. And at that time, the residence halls did not have Wi-Fi. And it was on the wish list for students every year from student government, like, please put Wi-Fi in. And everyone had to just do their homework and live this life of a student and get to things on time and get their work done. And I tell you what, we had Wi-Fi in the residence halls the next fall after the president experienced this.
I love that.
And there were like reflection times where everyone would come together as a group, almost like a big focus group, to say what they learned. And the students were kind of like, yeah, no duh. This is what it's like to be us. But you don't listen. Like, we come to propose things, but it's not the same as living it.
Yeah.
So anyway, Nickel and Dimed reminds me of that, where she lived, she held herself to a minimum wage salary and tried to live it. And I wonder what opportunities do we have on all our campuses to get that immersion experience?
I love that that went on for a week because one of my favorite programs that we did, and I know we did it when we were both working together, was the Hunger Banquet. But
Mm,
my thought was always, okay, we're doing this for an hour. What if we did this for 2 days or even a day? What would that be like? And how much further could you drive that point home? Yes, it's frustrating to only get a cup of rice and miss one meal when you know you're getting pizza afterwards. But if
yeah.
that goes on for a day, it doesn't really tell you what it's like to be a student and be hungry for days on end while you're trying to learn and navigate and probably work at the same time.
I wanna I worry I put this out there and people are gonna be like, "Oh, yeah, our school could never do that." But what are some things you could do in one day?
Hmm.
Like, even just going to lunch with a student and asking them questions about
Yeah.
their life, or asking, like, "Which buildings do you have classes in, and what can you teach me about where you live, and what wouldn't I know about what it's like to be you?" Uh you don't have to do focus groups, you don't have to do major research to just learn from another person's story.
We have a dean who sends all of their faculty to the bookstore to look at the costs of the books that they assign to students. And I think that's brilliant because I think it's so easy to just say, here's my required reading list and not understand the financial impact, especially when we have so many students who are attending school and using aid to do that. I always thought it would be fun to just give everybody a little packet of Monopoly money with different amounts in and say, here's what you have. Go to the store. You have to go get something to eat at the dining hall with this and also still have money left over for books. And you have to take the bus back to your house. Go figure out how much all that costs and see if you have enough money.
I remember RA trainings and orientation leader trainings where they used to do more immersion experiences
Hmm.
like that to teach how to find resources, how much things cost. Oh man, I'd love to do that more for our professional staff to do that same learning.
I think that would be brilliant. I think I think back to being in college and being an RA, and I think broadly, I probably assumed that most of the students who lived on my floor had the same experience that I had. And I don't
Mhm.
know if I had the wherewithal to put myself in the shoes of somebody who had I don't even know if I knew what a different experience was back then. I'm sure there were people that were far more well off than I was, but probably equally so people that had come from backgrounds that were not as affluent as mine or didn't have some of the same benefits that I did, or maybe their parents didn't go to college and they were navigating on their own.
Yeah. I'm gonna mention one other book that is we mention it every so often, it's on our rotation here, but we call it the Rainbow Book right behind me. Reframing Campus Conflict. It shows you 9 different ways that you can resolve, student conduct cases, basically, not just hearings, not just mediation, but, it might be interesting in the summer when you're doing your planning to just think of one new things
Hmm.
that you could do. And with restorative practice, I hear a lot of folks feel like it's all or nothing, but in some ways it's better to just think of one thing. And I'll steal my friend Greg Myers' strategy is just using circles when new staff come to do a new staff introduction circle
Hmm.
and getting people used to talking in that format. Don't even worry about conflict. Just use circles in um, mundane, not even mundane, but just everyday
Yeah.
conversations.
Very cool.
Yeah. Any other big tips before we sign off here?
Make sure you have time to recharge in there because you're going to hit the ground running when you get back.
Mhm.
At least that's my
Mm.
experience.
Have fun with it.
Yeah,
Remember why you chose this amazing career to begin with and dig into that.
love it.
All right, Kurt, I will see you next time on Misbehavior.
Bye.
Misbehavior is written and produced by Colette Shaw and Kurt Doan. Theme music was written and performed by Kevin MacLeod from Incompetech.com. You can contact Ms. Behavior at msbehaviorcollege@gmail.com. That's msbehaviorcollege@gmail.com.